Hey everybody, Todd with Home Defense Shakedown. I have my USA hat on today. I don't know why. I just kind of with the whole mess of America right now. I felt like putting it on. I usually wear my little American flag hat, but I just felt like wearing the Stars and Stripes today. It's a crazy world that we live in. Getting crazier by the second. I've been looking through my videos on my website, and it just occurred to me that I haven't really formally introduced myself and kind of gave you a little bit of insight about my background. Now, if you're inviting me out to your house and saying, "Hey, Todd, give me some advice on how I keep my family safe," you kind of want to know is the guy that I'm talking to actually kind of know what he's talking about and what's his history so that I can make a decision whether he knows enough to listen to? So I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick recap of some of the highlights of my life, kind of some of the training that I've experienced, and that way you know a little bit more about who I am and how I can help you and your family stay safe. I enlisted right out of high school into the Army. I was very blessed. I went through basic training and some other training, and I was selected to go to a unit that was loosely affiliated at the time with the nuclear programs, the nuclear force that was in Europe. And my main mission was one, it was somewhat security for the nuclear weapons that were there when they were being deployed. They're all on mobile platforms. But I was also trained to train the people protecting those. And the number one unit that they were concerned about, enemy wise, was the basically the Soviet Union Special Forces. Because if you can imagine, they're not going to want those missiles to fly, and so they're going to send their best to stop them. So I was kind of trained up to be the guy that slowed them down, not stopped them. Very much like you're going to do for someone trying to get into your home, slow them down so that you can do what you need to do. So we did a lot of really interesting things while I was over there. I had a security clearance based off what type of job I was doing, some of the facilities that we had access to. And that all came together when I decided to get out in late 89 and go out into the real world. My unit was gone a lot. I went into the military with a small family. My family got bigger while I was in the military, and my wife at the time was like, "Look, Todd, you're gone so much of the year time during the year. I feel like I'm by myself over here." And I loved my job, but we were gone about 8 months of every year, and it was really tough on my family. So I made a decision since at that time, if you remember, they were kind of getting to the point, the wall was starting to kind of teeter over there. The Eastern Bloc countries were kind of getting a little shaky, and and Reagan had just made some type of a treaty to eliminate a lot of the missiles that my unit was affiliated with. So I knew that particular job was going away, and I didn't want to do anything less. We had a lot of freedom. The unit that I was in, we could do pretty much not everything we wanted to do, but we had a lot of freedom. We had a lot of training. We did a lot of fun stuff. The stuff that you dream about when you go into the military, we were doing it. And but while it was fun and it was educational and it ended up helping me in the future, it was killing my family life. And I just couldn't see balancing that. Because if I re enlisted, then I know I was going to pick a unit that was going to be very similar to that, and I wouldn't have a family. So I decided to get out. I knew that I had a lot more skill sets that were valuable on the outside than when I went in. So got out in late 89, and I got my first law enforcement job in 90. I got hired. I put out applications everywhere. Unlike today, for every one position open, there was probably 200 to 300 applicants. The economy kind of sucked, and people were looking for work. And at the time, law enforcement was one of those jobs that paid pretty well. The benefits were pretty decent. You had a decent retirement, and so a lot of people were applying. And I was fortunate enough to get a position on one of the local police departments. While I was there, I did a lot of fun stuff. I have no regrets about the job. It's a tough job, but there's a lot of jobs within police work that I despised, and there was others that I loved. I did undercover work while I was there. I was able to catch a bank robber, which was really cool. In the process of happening, the guy was in his car leaving, and I was able to catch him, which is really cool. I mean, how many police officers can say they caught a bank robber? And in the town I was in, really there wasn't a whole lot of them going on anyway, so it was pretty rare. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. Probably the number one job that I loved and which really kind of helped me out with this particular job and building this business was my time in community services. That's the guy that goes out and does the block watches and the beat meetings, that kind of thing. One, I loved it because you're invited out. There's cookies there. You show up and everybody's giving you a hug and, hey, you did show up. Oh my gosh, we're so happy to see you. Teach us what we need to know. I loved it because all the other jobs pretty much in law enforcement, you're kind of there and you're there and you're not really invited. You're invited, but you're not really welcome. In a lot of cases, you're not there under the best circumstances. Whereas with this particular aspect of that job, you are welcomed. So I love that part of it. Also was a member of the original bike team, the bicycle team. Didn't have the budget for it. Department decided they wanted it because it looked really cool, I guess. And they thought that it would be beneficial to the community. So I was a member of the original team. Loved that. Was on that for several years. But probably the thing that led me to leave police work was something that I started while I was in community services, the block watch position. We would do sex offender notifications. I just hated telling people, hey, look down the street, there's a sex offender. I hated that. But it was one of the duties that we were doing, and it was a relatively new thing. And the internet, this is in the mid 90s, the internet was actually starting to become popular. People were starting to dial up to the internet and look around and see what's out there. And it was very, very much in its infancy. But I thought, if I can build a website and put the sex offenders on there, then the community can just go to the website and they wouldn't have to, wait for us to come around and tell them, hey, there's somebody down the street. They can just look for themselves. Or if somebody new moved into the neighborhood, they could be told to go to this website and it'll tell you everything you need to know. So I thought it was a great idea. But back then, it wasn't like now where you just drag and drop and it's pretty much already built for you. You're just kind of making adjustments. You had to learn code. So I had to teach myself code on my time, put the website together on my time, and then I brought it to my boss and said, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. And they had to work it through the legal part. Hey, because it was so new and nobody was doing it. It's like, can we legally do this? Because nobody knew. So I had to work its way through that. And, luckily our chief was like, hey, hell yeah, that sounds like a great idea. He looked at it and went, this is perfect. So they ended up launching that. And then I left the position. And then I heard later that the Department of Public Safety, DPS, here in Arizona, actually contacted the police department and said, hey, can you tell us a little bit how you put this together? And, we want to put our own together for the entire state. And so that was pretty cool to kind of be the person leading the charge when it came to the internet and sex offender notifications. I kind of thought about it. I was able to teach myself the skills I needed and actually successfully put it together. And I thought, you know what? That's pretty cool. But I was into motorcycles at the time too. That was my stress reliever. I'd get on my bike and I'd ride. Well, I went out one day and I tried to buy a motorcycle helmet. I couldn't find what I was looking for. I saw that there were some people online selling them online. I wasn't really familiar with purchasing anything over the internet. So I started looking into that. And then I put together the skills as far as building a website that I had developed doing the sex offender website. And I thought, man, everything is lining up here. Maybe I can sell motorcycle helmets online. And so I put together a website, and lo and behold, it actually grew into something that was an opportunity for me to leave the police department. So I decided after 10 plus years, you know what? I'm going to try this full time. So I left and decided to grow that business. And again, I was very fortunate. It was very successful. Did that for about 12 years. Decided to kind of leave that. Took a couple of years off. Thought about some other things I wanted to do. Skydived. Gosh, if there was something I could do, I was doing it. Raced motorcycles. Gosh, I just did. I mean, if it came, I bought a plane and got my license, twin engine plane, and flew that, and had a really good time doing that. So just a lot of stuff on my bucket list that I honestly just couldn't afford in my early years. I just thought, you know what, I can afford it now, so I'm going to go do it. So I did that. Started a couple other businesses. They were also moderately successful. Still have a business right now that I'm kind of stepping away from and letting the people kind of work. I have people that are still in the business working it. And that leaves me an opportunity to start this. And this is really my passion. I've always enjoyed going all the way back to when I was in the military. I always thought that force on force, where you have an imposing force that is trying to exert their will on another element that's trying to oppose that force, is the way to really develop good skills. Being in the heat of battle. I thought about that I did that when I was in the military. I tried to get that when I was a police officer, but it's just the technology wasn't there yet. Basically, it was paintball, and just like, you can't do training with paintball guns back then. They were huge. It just wasn't realistic. And, of course, when I got into the motorcycle industry, I was riding a lot of motorcycles, and I was racing motorcycles. And so I had to do it to some classes and learn how to ride a motorcycle efficiently so I could be competitive, not great, but at least competitive. And, I just kind of looked at it and went, there's no better way of learning something than doing. And so when I came up with the idea of doing force on force training inside the home, after many, many months of development, here I am. And I really think we have a solid program that our clients get a lot out of. There's the stuff that we do with you and your family, you're not going to get anywhere else. Not knocking going to the range. I do that myself. Matter of fact, I did that just a couple hours ago. Went to the range, had some food at Wix, went to the Continental and shot. That's very valuable. You develop some very important skill sets while you're doing that. But it's not situational. And that's what we do here. I wanted to put my clients, those that were looking for our assistance, in a situation where they had to make judgment calls, where something was happening in front of them and they had to figure out how they were going to solve that problem. And you really can't do that unless you're in it, unless you're living it. And so that's the company. That was the basis of my thought path in developing this company. And I think while we're going to be changing, we're going to be kind of moving left and right with this business and adding and taking things away and improving it constantly, that the core thing that I want my clients to walk away, you to walk away with, is knowing when we leave at the end of the evening that you feel more confident that if something horrible, God forbid, was to happen at your home, that you're more prepared to handle it efficiently, limiting the possibility that you're harmed or your family is harmed. That's my goal. So there's my, longer than anticipated breakdown of what I've done in my life. There's a lot of other stuff, obviously. I didn't mention everything, but I have a passion for this. And I think that you can benefit by having us out to go through this training process. You're going to be better off because of it. I truly believe that. So if you're interested, please look around on the website. There's ways of contacting us on there. Reach out to us if you have more questions. I'd love to talk to you. And until we do meet, I will talk to you later. Thank you again for tuning in. It means a lot. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.